Alright, this install, I'm going to show you how I hacked a left-hand rear brake for a trials bike. This is a 2005 beta Rev3. And I'll explain later why I do this. I did this to another bike, but here's the version 1 hack. And I'm going to upgrade it. I'm going to make it so it has, it's a little too spongy right now. So I went up through there. And there is your left-hand rear brake. And there's the clutch lever. So you can kind of see them both. So I'm going to leave the clutch lever. I got that dialed. And the brake lever, I'm going to leave that as is. And then I'm going to redo housing. And then talk about the merits of why I'm adamant about having that left-hand rear brake. Okay, here's the special hardware that you need. You need to get some type of brake lever, cable actuated brake lever. And there's all kinds of options, so you probably want to look at what type of throw you have, how it fits in there, what kind of clamp you have, whatever's going to work better for the handlebars. Anyway, there's all kinds of options. I picked that up on something, Amazon, eBay. These right here, cable stop nuts. I think that's the actual name for them, but this is a thing that usually mountain bikes use, but it's got a little hole in there and it has a nut that threads down so you can run the cable through there. You'll see when I get that set up. So I just picked up a bag of these, and I might have to put a link to what they are because I can't remember the exact name of them, but it's like a cable nut stop or something like that. So what I found is they don't come with the washer that clamps it down enough, so I'll add in some extra washers, and so that it comes over and clamps down on that cable a little bit better when you run this down. But this small thing like this helps keep it out of the way so it doesn't interfere with anything. So you need something along those lines. And then I have a place I can mount this to a bolt. This is going to be the upgrade, the version 2.0. This is a hanger for a seat post clamp for a mountain bike for a brake cable. They use these with cantilever brakes, and so I'm going to be able to do this, and it provides a cable stop, and then it should create more braking force, and that's what I want out of this. So something along these lines. You need something that will stop the housing so that you can get the leverage on that cable. So these are the special parts you need, and then just standard. I'm using standard brake cable and housing from mountain bike. So that's going to be the setup I'm using for this one. But you could probably use motorbike housing and cable too to accomplish the same thing. Okay, I'm using some Jaguar brake housing, mountain bike brake housing that's lined. And I'm running this up through the frame here, and I'm going to try to keep it out of the way and zip tie it. Usually I've found you want to run a little bit more than you think, because if you're short, it does not work out right with steering the handlebars. Okay. Then I've got my mount there, and I'll take a close up once I get it seated in there. But what I did is I took that nut off. I just happened to find a nice location, and this is the mounting bolt for the rear brake, and right there I'm going to run it down. So this is a hydraulic brake, and then I'm using this cable to just physically pull that up, and I'll show it when I'm all set up. So I did have to get a longer bolt so I could fit that in there. So I just found a bolt. I actually robbed one from a stem cap from a bike, mountain bike, and it was just a little bit longer, so I could add that in there. And it doesn't look like it's going to interfere with anything. Obviously, there's some tight tolerances there. You don't want anything getting into that chain, so we'll see how it works out. But anyway, I'm kind of routing this up. I'll show you the end product once I finish up here. Okay, I've cut plenty of cable housing for bikes in the past, and I've found one is you need a good rounded tool like that, and Park Tool makes that. But even when you get that cut, a lot of times there's a sharp piece in there, and so using some type of nippers like that to avoid, because if it rubs against that cable, it's gonna fray. And then using one of these tools, which is one of my most popular tools, seems like I'm always using it for something, some type of pick like this. You need to open up that lining so the cable flows through there nicely. Yeah. If you're running the cable from the top, which you've been doing here, sometimes you can poke that out, but it's nice if you give it a little help opening up the hole. So that looks good to go. And I'm going to run the cable, get it set up in there, and show you what it looks like. Okay, I don't actually have the right end, but it seems to work. I needed a rounded one, but this is a brake cable housing. Like I said, I just had a bunch of extra of these and they work, so it's not the exact correct one. The good thing about this is it's kind of a low, it's not a life or death thing. If this fails, this is just an extra mechanism, and you can still hit the foot brake. And probably the only danger is if it got wrapped up in the chain or something down there, so I'm being careful about that. But okay, so you roll this barrel to allow plenty of room to take up slack. So I've got the barrel there. Run this through my housing that I just ran there. Alright, so I just hit the end there. And it's not, there we go. Alright, that went through. Where did it end up? So I might need to pull it from the other end so it's catching up on something. Yep, there it came out. So that's looking pretty good. I will use some needle nose pliers. Yeah, that's nice. It came right through there. Just like I planned it. I think this is going to work even better. So I'm pulling it through, and I'm going to feed it through there. That zip tie was something that was on it when I bought it. I don't know, that's just holding it in place somehow. Not sure what that function is, but anyway, didn't want to mess with it because the previous owner had put it on and it seemed to be working. Okay, I thought about, you probably run it through one of the little spring holes there, and that was my original thought, but then I found out you can just run it right underneath there and then just put your stop right there. So I think take up the slack here, run that into there. I think that is going to do it because it doesn't appear to be interference. If there is, if it looks like it's going to rub on the chain, I might put a little bit of a loosened zip tie or something to to keep it free of doing that. So we'll see. It's experimental, just like the Wright brothers here. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on. I found out what they're called. It's a cable anchor bolt. Here's the Jaguar version of that. I got a pack of 25, relatively inexpensive. It says Jaguar 5mm cable anchor bolt bag. So that's one of them. The other, there's a part number. The other bag I got was under the same name. It was just a different manufacturer. So this is the setup I've got. I've got stacked a couple lock washers and one that goes freely through there, one washer. And once the cable's through there, all this will compress down and grip it in place. So this is what we're looking at. Take and feed it through the hole there. Okay, so it runs through just like that. Then we'll go up against that. Usually I use, I want to tighten that up, but not so much that it pulls the brake down, but there will be some cable stretch in the system. So this is a 8mm. Okay, so snug that up against that. Test my pull. Yeah, that has much better leverage on it than the previous setup. Oops. All right, so I didn't tighten it up and that just pulled it through. But I'm double checking that I've got good clearance there. Yeah, I might just zip tie that a little bit. Might just zip tie that just to keep it a little bit closer, but I'm really happy with how that's working. Okay, I'm totally happy with how that's working right now. There's good clearance there. I just added, okay, so I redid this and left a little tab there to kind of keep this cable away from the chain. And then I added that in, which I don't think is going to cause a problem because it just keeps it cinched up enough that keeps it from flopping around in there. So that's, let's see if you can see the stop. Put the housing in, then I'm running up through there. I'm going to zip tie in some spots, keep it out of the way, up through there. Right now I'm getting good action there. So the cable is going to stretch a little bit. It's not actually stretching, but it will seat in here a little bit more over time. So that's when I'll roll this barrel out to tighten it up some. But right now you can see it actually pulls that down, so I can do either. I can do foot or both. Foot will give it a little bit better power, but this will give it better control. And I'm really happy with that. So I'm gonna cap off the end there. A couple other things. So I'm gonna do just enough to give me a little bit of wiggle room, and add a ferrule on the end of that so it doesn't fray. One thing I found with these stop nuts, or stop bolts I guess, after years of using them on cantilever brakes, you know, you squeeze hard and it will like pull through there. So it's helpful to get this as tight as possible, and then also bend your cable a little bit once you're comfortable, if you have the right length on there. The more you bend your cable, the less chance it will just pull through there when you do a hard squeeze on it. But even if you do, it's not going to be a ride ender, because you'll just, if you pull it through there on a ride, you'll end up just without being able to use that the rest of the time. You can come back to the shop, fix it later, because it's not going to inhibit this at all. So that setup there, I think I'm going to have a ton of fun with. What it allows for is more control, because your hands have way better feelings than your feet do. Hands have way more nerves, and you can feel the lever and do a lot more with the modulation of it, whereas a foot brake, you kind of just stomp on it, you can't feel through your boots. And I'm sure the greatest trials riders know how to use this to perfection, but why not use technology and have another option up there? I know it helps me quite a bit. So I'm going to finish this off and then explain the philosophy a little bit more on why I like left-hand rear brake. Okay, the last touch, adding this ferrule onto the end of the cable, and then I'll show you how it's routed. So you just need something that can get on that. This Park tool has a good crimper, or you can use some needle nose pliers. Anyway, so that's crimped off. Got that tightened down really good. So it comes up through there. Zip tied it off right there. Keep it away from the exhaust. Ran it up underneath there and up through the hole with the other cables, and routed around. I probably could have gone a little bit shorter with that, but looks good otherwise. And oh yes, that feels much tighter and crisper than my last setup. So that little change with adding that hanger in there really improved it a lot. So I'm happy with this. It's time to go test it out. So why is it that I like that left-hand rear brake? Well, my background is mountain biking, and I really learned how to use my rear brake to control speeds, because anytime you front brake, you can't steer as well with the braking happening while you're turning. So using that back brake to kind of drag things, I really learned to use that quite a bit. So when I jump on a motorbike, I have a hard time figuring out how to do it, and then I can't feel so well with my right foot. So I like to really be able to feel it with the dexterity of my hands, and I find that I can go a lot faster, especially downhill. And then the other real major advantage is that you need your right foot to make a foot plant sometimes going around a right-hand turn on a steep descent. And when you're trying to brake with your foot, you can't really do that. So being able to go with my left hand gives me way more confidence going into those turns. And one of the things on my YZ450F, I put that Recluse makes that left-hand rear brake, and when I put that on there, it was just like night and day. I went way faster, a lot more confident, being able to go into corners faster, even on the flats and uphills, because I know I can grab that left-hand rear brake. So it takes a little bit of, I'm going to be learning as we go, because this is a little bit different setup. And I had a Recluse clutch on my YZ, which makes it easy. I don't even have to touch that clutch lever, but on this trials bike, I need to use both, so it's going to be some practice there. But I've already tested it out some, and I can use 2 fingers like that. And I might need to move these around a little bit, but I've even grabbed one and grabbed the other and been able to do both like that. So it'll take a little bit of practice, but they don't interfere with each other. That's the other key point there, is don't let this one interfere with that one, because you'll have a major issue if that clutch doesn't work when you go to grab it. This ain't the way it's supposed to be. BS! This ain't the way it's supposed to be.